Oh, good morning. We are live, everybody. Thank you for joining in on the show today. I am super excited to talk with Fian O'Brien this morning. Hey, we're live again. I sometimes the ticker buttons tell me I'm live, and then they tell me I'm live again. So I don't know if I was live the first time or not, but welcome to live. We're talking with Fian O'Brien about how do you get the most out of the content that you create for a podcast. So she runs a podcast and she's out on LinkedIn sharing this content and doing a really great job with all of this and drawing engagement from other people. So that's why I wanted to have her on the show, because she does a really good job with that. A couple of other notes, something different I've started doing the last couple of weeks. If you happen to be in watching, I've created some audience questions to scroll across the bottom. So if you are here and you are in, I want to know the answer to this. How many live shows do you watch per week? So leave your comment, and after Fian introduces herself, we will maybe get to those if somebody gets some comments. So Fian, I'm trying really hard to say your name correctly. Fian O'Brien.
That's
And
great.
I'm going to toss it over to you, get my directions correctly. Please give yourself an introduction. And I always tell people, don't hold back. You can brag as much as you want here. So go for it.
Thanks so much, Ryan. First of all, I really appreciate you reaching out. It's been so cool to see his comments in my content, and I do read all the comments, so I really appreciate that. My name is Fian O'Brien, and I am the CEO of Okiki Consulting. And essentially, what I'm passionate about is making your brand known, and that is making it known in a virtual world. So through video content, 360 VR, and coordinating virtual events, because I want people to be able to show up with their best face, with their brand to the world. And the easiest way to reach the world is through these forms of content. And at the same time, I also run a podcast called the Okiki Podcast, which is making inspirational people known. So on that podcast, I interview entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, and even occasionally athletes to find out how did they find their purpose and what were the highs and lows for them getting to where they wanted to reach. Essentially, I want everyone to really go after their purpose and their goals. And a lot of times people hold back because of their fears, because of a lot of internal things. And if they can see the process of how someone got there and realize they're just ordinary people, really just going after their dreams, I believe more people would go towards their goals. So that's another thing that I produce. That's how Ryan saw my content. And essentially, I've really plugged that into LinkedIn. It's a lot of personal development content. So that's what I've done. I've really took the snippets from the interviews that I feel are really good highlights that really speak a message, and that's what I post on LinkedIn. But yeah, that's out of a really long interview. As you know, most podcasts are 45 minutes at least, and I try to get at least a little bit of something that I feel would really bring value to people on the platform.
Well, thanks. I have a couple of comments on what you said. The first one, you said you interview a lot of people, even some athletes, and you talk to a lot of people. And one of the things you said is they're largely just normal people like the rest of us. So even these kind of famous people that you find on the internet, when you get to talk to them in live sessions like this, you start to realize, yeah, they're normal people just like all the rest of us. They put their shoes on 1 foot at a time, just like everybody else. But here, we're going to jump into some of the comments we got out here. Blake, thanks for watching. He watches 1 to 3 live shows per week. I'll answer this for myself here quick. I would watch more, but LinkedIn doesn't do a great job of telling me who's going live. So I probably get parts of 3 to 5 live shows per week. Jennifer, thanks for joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I know Jennifer, she was on the show a while ago. Samarth, I think I said your name correctly. Hello from India. And David, David's another person. Sometime I'm going to have on my show, but he produces a show for the oil and gas industry and talks to a lot of people doing that. But now we're going to jump into one of my favorite parts of the show. This is where we all get to learn more about you, Fian. And so don't get too worried. Don't get too worried. But yeah, I'm closing out some of these. See, there's your name. So here's my question to the audience as we get started. Do you drink coffee, and how much coffee do you drink? But my first question for Fian, I ask I think it's 4 questions of all my guests, just so we can get to know you a little bit better. Here's what I want to know. How many cups of coffee do you drink per week?
This answer may really surprise you, but I cannot drink coffee. If I drink coffee, I won't sleep because I wake up and I kind of wake up amped up like every day. So I'm already too amped up. And when I take coffee, it just takes it to another level. So I can't drink coffee.
Hey, I don't drink coffee either. I just don't like how it tastes. But here's one of the questions. Almost everybody has an opinion on this question. Some people are like, I drink, can we just measure it in pots? How many pots do I drink every day? Wow. But yeah, so that's a good one. Next question is, what is your favorite restaurant?
Okay, so in town where I live, there's this cool place called Drift, and they're like this weird mix of a coffee shop downstairs, a restaurant upstairs, and they have a rooftop patio where it's basically just like drinks and like hanging out for people. So that's my favorite in town. Haven't been able to frequent it much, obviously, with the season that we're in. Right. Starting to reopen. And I also love eating East Indian food. I love that. So.
Okay, you're from Saskatchewan, Canada, right? Saskatoon.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I should know more about my geography of Canada. I think I'm in South Dakota, and I think you're straight north of me a number of hours. Is it really cold there during the winters? Because it's cold in South Dakota, and you're farther north.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's a place of extremes. It's really dry. And right now we're in summer, so it's very hot. Like, it'll go from so hot, like, plus 30, just dry heat, to like minus 40 in the winter. Absolutely. So yeah, if you come here in the middle of January, February, you may not really love your life. So you have to just be really bundled up to face the everyday weather. But definitely the summer, you'll think it's a completely different place. So yeah, dry heat and dry season, and yeah, the extremes.
Well, I guess that's interesting. Yeah, January and February in South Dakota are not pleasant either. Jennifer chimed in. She doesn't drink any coffee either. She has peppermint tea. On to our next question. All right. When you read, are you a paperback book person? Are you an ebook? Or I should add audiobook in here because some people like that. Or are you just not a reader and books aren't your thing?
I love books and I love paperback. I only have one book that I actively read and finished on ebook. And then the book was so good, but I realized the experience was just weird for me. So I love being able to hold that book in my hands.
I'm kind of with you on the paperback book things, but you can do all the things in the ebook. It just hasn't caught me. Maybe I'm too old for those things.
I don't know. I feel like it's like you're either one or the other. I've asked a lot of people this question too.
Yeah. All right. And for the last of the get to know the guests a little bit better questions, what career did you want growing up?
Oh my goodness. I was such a weird hodgepodge of things. First I wanted to be a gymnast full time. And then I started it too late. But there's other people doing that for me. So I'm really excited. I watch it at the Olympics every year.
Could have been you. That could have been you.
Yeah. And then I love music. I still do music quite actively on the side, but really I thought I'd be like a full-time singer. And that's really like the two things I thought I'd be. I still do music like a lot. Like I've sang at the jazz festivals in my city, but I never really thought of the scope of doing other things along with it.
That's interesting. Those are not two things I've ever wanted to be. I never wanted to be a gymnast, and even if I did want to be a singer, my skills just don't lie there, and I haven't practiced it a whole lot. We got another comment before we jump into some of the other questions. Samarth, first, Samarth, am I saying your name correctly? He likes to have his coffee while he watches podcasts. So there you go. And now we're gonna sort of dive into some of the questions of why I really wanted to talk to you and get you on the show. So my first question, throwing it out there, is why did you start a podcast?
Yeah, essentially, I was just listening to so many. I really love how podcasts you could gain so much knowledge. Like when the guest is on there, they're speaking for such a long period of time and they'll really give you so much information. It was like having an audio library. And I'm always really curious, want to ask people questions. How did they get to where they got to? Why are they passionate about it? And eventually, after listening to a lot, I was like, I think I might be able to pull this off. Let me just see. So the first place I went to, and the first person that inspired me actually to see if I could pull this off was seeing another millennial who had gone through Dragon's Den, which is like the Canadian version of Shark Tank. Actually, a lot of the judges from Dragon's Den are on Shark Tank. And she had been rejected from the show, actually. But she took their advice and their feedback, redeveloped her app, and now it's a very profitable app. So it was really cool to see a story of behind the scenes that you wouldn't see on TV. So I essentially reached out to her, asked her if she'd be willing to do it on LinkedIn, and to like at least 5 people. And when I felt like, okay, I have at least 5 people who'd be willing to tell me their story, that's when I thought I might be able to get something going here. And honestly, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, a couple things there. Yeah, it's not very hard to get people to come on your podcast or your show anymore. And there are tools that just make it so easy. But there's so many interesting stories like you were mentioning. You wouldn't see them on TV. TV doesn't have time to give a 20-minute background story of how somebody got on Shark Tank, whatever it's called in Canada. But my follow-up question for this is, how long ago did you start your podcast?
Not that long ago. So I've only been podcasting since September this year. I'm about to release my 29th episode. So really, I've just jumped into it. I'm really new to it. And kind of like Ryan said, I was surprised for how new I was, how many amazing guests I was able to get. I even have some coming up for like a newer season. And again, people that I was shocked would even respond to me reaching out to them, considering how new I was.
Yeah, people seem to be open to it, more so than if you just said, can we have a phone call? I think once you do a podcast and you're willing to put their voice out in front of other people, it makes it more appealing because they're not just having a conversation with you. They're having a conversation that essentially can reach a much larger audience if it gets there. Okay, time for our next audience question. Samarth, I did get your comment on I'm saying your name correctly, but our next audience question, have you ever wanted to be a guest on a podcast or a live show? So let me know in the comments if that's one of the things that you've aspired to do in your life. And see, I'm not asking you the same questions, Fian. You get different questions. So I wanted to know a little bit about this. I've seen some of the things you do, but can you walk the audience a little bit through, like, how do you repurpose what you do for a podcast, and how do you turn that into content you can share elsewhere?
All right. I love this question because I want to give some background. I started my podcast, because I'm very curious. I wanted to learn from these people, and I thought, what a better way to do this than to ask them questions and then share that value with an audience. but I actually had another purpose behind it too. I also wanted to be a LinkedIn content creator. There's not that many of us that do create content on here. It's like 1%. And I thought, this is a fantastic platform to really post this kind of content. People want to learn, people want personal development. This is a great place to repurpose it. And so a lot of people are trying to come up with, how do I come up with content for this platform? Well, podcast is an amazing way to do it. You have like a 45-minute interview, and I thought, hey, I bet I could get 4 or 5 clips out of that one interview and post it on the platform. So that's one way that I have repurposed my content, because again, it'll get people interested, excited about what is that person really talking about. And if they find that clip intriguing, they'll probably want to listen to the rest of the interview anyways. But not only that, I'm providing those moments of value for the platform. Another thing is with this content, it's recyclable. So I've reposted content from my podcast on TikTok. And the funny thing with TikTok is they're like, young ones most of the time. The attention span is a little different. So I tested posting content in real time and then trying something weird like speeding it up, like double timing the speed. And I literally took 2 clips that were the same and tested that. And the one that was double the speed got like hundreds of views. That really surprised me because it's so fast. I'm like, how are they actually getting this in? But that one got hundreds of views. People liked it. And so for TikTok, I just speed it up. So many places where you can post the content, I like to post it on my Facebook business page. I post it on Pinterest. A lot of people don't realize that you can post video content on there, and IGTV. So again, once you have a larger form of content, you can repost it, repurpose it in so many ways and use it for wherever you want it to be seen. And finally, I do the full length. I post it on my YouTube channel. So that way, if people wanted to see how we were speaking in person, they can also go there.
Yeah. Do you always do your podcast? Do you always record the video along with them?
As much as I can. I'll have a guest every once in a while that's like not comfortable with it, and then I'll make it more of like a soundbite situation. But majority of the time, I do use video.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and video makes it nice. Like just this little clip here, you can cut out 60 seconds of this where one of us says something really profound, and then you have a nice piece of content to share. One other follow-up or just comment I had, one of the first things you said about your podcast is you started it because you wanted to learn. It's one of the things I'm noticing. Many of the people who have done this and run shows and podcasts just kind of want to learn more about the topic that they've got. And they've chosen to put it out in a format that other people in the world can see. And so a little background, I've been doing these live stream interviews for, I think, 4 months now. And I wanted to do it because I wanted to practice doing live interviews. And I figured no better way to do that than just put them out there. And it's been great. I've connected with really fun people and heard great stories.
It's so true. It's the best way to learn, to just do it.
All right. So I'm getting some answers to some of the questions out here. Sam Marth, he wants to make it on a TED Talk.
Awesome.
Well, I don't know what to say, Sam. I've never done that. TEDx is, I think, a little easier if you can find one of your local areas that does TEDx talks. And I don't really know what it takes to get on the TED stage. So I'm no help there, Sam Marth, but good luck with that. And if you do make it, let us know. We'll watch it.
Absolutely.
And Howard, so I had him on the show. We actually flip-flopped. He was on my show. I was on his show a while ago. And yeah, it's great to repurpose content. And welcome to the show, Go Palin. Man, people are just rolling in all over the place here. So good stuff. Next question I've got. This is what I'm going to call it. What is your podcast superpower? But maybe I will rephrase it this way. What is the one thing about doing a show that you feel you are really good at?
Yeah, I think I realized that I feel like I connect with people really well when they come on the show. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of the people I've interviewed have wanted to connect afterwards or have follow-up conversations or have me do something with them. I found that I interview people and we actually end up building some sort of relationship from it. So that's been surprising to me. It wasn't what I expected to happen, but it's like now I feel like they're people I know. We support each other, we support each other's content, and we actually look out for each other now. So I think I read a blog about podcasting, and I remember the guy was making a big deal about building rapport with a guest and like how you have to, it's really hard to do sometimes. And maybe I haven't had a crazy guest yet, but I found that that wasn't actually that hard to do. I feel like a lot of people are just really cool to talk to. So yeah, that relationship building part, I think, is what I found that people feel like they are enjoying their time on the show.
Yeah, I found that a little bit surprising too. When you have these live conversations, like, I feel like we're friends now.
Yeah.
And so it's not something I intended or expected to come out of these things, but it is really true. And maybe it's the live video aspect of it, but you feel like we're no longer strangers. So people didn't know this. Fian and I are connected on LinkedIn. I think we've sent some messages back and forth, but we've never met in person. And she just posts some good content, and I've engaged with it, and I liked it. And then I asked her to be on the show. So essentially, we were kind of strangers before we did the live interview. All right, let's jump ourselves down here. Another audience question, throwing these out today. What is your favorite part of live shows? So what do you like about live shows? And my question for Fian is, why is now a good time to be creating content?
Oh, wow. Really good question. Well, for one, if you see on my platform, I have a lot of videos about posting content on LinkedIn. Like I said, only 1% of the people there post content. There's a lot of people who make big decisions for organizations, for companies that have a chance to see your content. It's a really good way to network. Now, obviously, with everyone being home, now I know there are reopenings happening, but I found that when everyone was kind of forced to be on lockdown in a huger way, I was getting influx of messages from people in my own city who were just seeing my content for the first time. And we're like, wow, you do all these things, right? It really just, it's a way to put yourself out there and build those warm connections. And it was like they were just coming to terms with what I do, because it gives a background in my city. There's not a lot of content creators that I know of on LinkedIn. So a lot of the people that follow me are either from the States, or a lot of people think I'm like in Toronto, you know, like no one really expects me to be from Saskatchewan. And so, yeah, when the people were actually online, they see your content, then they're curious about what you do. It created a lot of messages, a lot of virtual coffees. And then, of course, you can get inbound clients through that as well. So really, it's a great time to have people's attention, to really show your expertise in your sector, and to really get in front of, you know, an audience of decision makers for LinkedIn. And then for content in general, yes, everyone's online more than they were before. So again, you have those eyes. So if you're on the other platforms posting as well, people are also really looking to learn right now. So educational content is going really well during this time, because again, there's a lot of people trying to pivot, trying to figure out where they're going with their careers and such. So yes, right now, if you have educational content, you have content to give value to your clients, this is a really good time to post.
I would agree with all of those. The education content is big. One of the things that's kind of jumped out, and you kind of mentioned this, live video, it's been around for a long time.
Yes.
I think until coronavirus hit, I think the general public didn't really know about it and didn't really use it.
I agree with you there.
And now people know about it. Now people watch shows, they engage with them. Couple of comments. Howard is appearing to like this. And Howard said, we were strangers until we connected on LinkedIn. And that's kind of true. One of the nice things about LinkedIn is you can find people all over the world. Howard's from the UK.
Wow. Awesome.
And I have another friend, Marco, from Now I forgot where he's from. Portugal. From Portugal. And so like I have these people that I interact with and they're from the other side of the globe.
Nice.
Sam Marth, his favorite part is presence of mind and witty conversations. He just loves them. I would agree. I like both of those things too. And Jennifer says she feels more connected during live shows where we can interact. I think this works both for like you and I, Fian, we feel like we're becoming friends here. But I think, and maybe I'm going to have you talk about this just a little bit.
Yeah.
As an audience member, when you watch lives, how is that different than you're just watching a recorded video later?
For sure. So you actually, even to go back to your comment about more people watching lives now, I have a LinkedIn connection that I did not know I had, Paul Carrick Brunson. And I'm sure I just connected with him. I don't know, sort of his profile somewhere, but he started doing these live shows like crazy during the lockdown, Mondays and Fridays. And to your point, I was I was watching these shows. These shows were like an hour and 45 minutes long and getting so much value because he was bringing in guests. And yeah, for the live experience for me, it was seeing the reactions, seeing like the honest feedback, the reactions of the audience would be asked like a really random question. They're like, what? Like, what is this? And just kind of brings back that semblance of reality, I guess, in that. And I love the interaction he even had with the crowd, very much like you're doing today, Ryan. You're like really on it for that. And I really appreciate when live hosts do that, because I know in those lives, a lot of people would show up. And one of the jokes on his live shows was that, and it wasn't really a joke, it was just someone who would always do this, but there'd always be one guy in the comments that would always be trying to shout out the single ladies. And so he would like call this guy out and be like, oh, by the way, Jabril, he wanted to know who the single ladies are on this chat. So it was like a joke every time you watch the live show. And it just felt like you're really part of this funny, like inside joke community. So one of the things I found, for the audience and for LinkedIn is that I actually built community. If we commented on each other's posts, we often connect with people we commented with in the comments. So it was really cool. It was a cool experience that I have to say before the lockdown, I wasn't an active LinkedIn Live watcher, and that totally made me more engaged and interested.
Absolutely, it's one, you feel like you're a part of that little community that's watching the live show, but you also you feel like you know the live hosts and the people on the show. And a number of my other guests have mentioned this, that people watching this show, if it's the first time, they're going to leave this show feeling like they know Ryan and Fian. They're gonna feel like they know us and they have an understanding of our personalities and stuff like that. We did get a comment here from Gopalin that I thought was interesting, and I thought we should jump in and comment on this. He said, "I still feel people hesitate to comment on social media. Any particular reason?" So I'm going to throw that over to you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the same reason that people hesitate to even create content. I think people hesitate to have any semblance of putting themselves out there, again, for their own fears. And the reason I bring that up is because I've gone to networking events in my city prior to the pandemic where people would be like, oh, I know you. I always see you on LinkedIn. Or I really liked your comment or content the other day. And I was like, oh, really? Because there's no comments. And I was like really confused, right? Because I was getting that from a lot of people. Now, obviously, thankfully, there are people engaging with it. But when I was hearing that from so many people, I'm like, I think more people are watching my content than I realize. And it's really nice for content creators, obviously, to have the people comment. I know I interviewed someone for a podcast, Jason, and he said, 1% of people will post content, 9% will actively engage, and then the rest are kind of just lurking and just seeing it, and you don't really know what they're thinking. Obviously, for a content creator, it's so satisfying to get the feedback, to get the reactions, to just know it's hitting someone, helping them in some way. But I guess that's the only answer I can really think of is, again, it's that weird idea of putting yourself out there in any way. And even that comment, that act of commenting can be so intimidating for some people.
Yes, and they're called lurkers on the internet, but I was having some conversations just yesterday with some people about this, and I too have run into the case where I will see somebody out in public and they will say, "Hey, I saw one of your videos or I saw one of your posts and I thought it was great." And I respond by, I don't really know what to say because I never knew that, because they've never liked, commented, left anything. And so here's a tip for everybody. If you're still watching and you're hanging on here, especially on LinkedIn, if you like somebody's content, you need to hit the like button, because LinkedIn is starting to heavily show content that you've previously liked. So if you're watching Fian's content and you don't hit the like button or you don't comment on it, pretty soon LinkedIn's going to stop showing it to you. And I've noticed that people who I haven't liked or commented in a while, I don't see their stuff. So I have to go back out to their profile and like it, and it comes back. So that's just kind of how social media works. Next audience question. We're winding down on the questions I have. I got one more really big question for you, Fian. So just hold on here. Anybody else out there, if you have any questions for Fian, please drop them in the comments and we'll get back to them after this. Here's my favorite question to ask people on my show, and we got plenty of time left on this one. What question do you wish I would have asked you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe the one I wish is, what's the most surprising guest you've had for your podcast so far?
Hey, see, now we got enough time. What's the most surprising guest you've had for your podcast so far? Yes, I nailed this question.
For sure. The most surprising guest for me was when I was 5 episodes into my podcast. I got someone request to be on my podcast, and she's all the way from Singapore. So her name's Janisha Alura, and she basically had the biggest online digital school in South Asia for women. So she was based in all those countries. She had a huge fan base over there. And I was really shocked that she even heard about my podcast, because like I said, I only had 5 episodes out, and that she really wanted to be on it. She herself had been interviewed by the COO of Facebook, and she had done co-interviews with Elena Cardone. So it was a really shocking experience to me that she reached out and that she really wanted to be on the podcast. So that was one of the coolest interview guests and experiences I've had.
Well, that's kind of cool. I had a surprise guest come into my room. You want to say hi to everybody?
Ooh.
Yeah, my daughter wandered in. I guess I forgot to lock my room. You can say good morning to everybody. That's it. You don't want to talk. I guess she doesn't want to talk. All right. All right. I'm going to look here. We got some other questions. Gopalin agrees with a lot of this. All right. I'm going to toss it back to you, and then I'm going to go see if I can set my daughter. You want to participate in the show? Oh, I need to put my tie on. Anyhow, I'm going to throw it back to you. If people want to get in touch with you and want to know more about you, where do they go and how do they get in touch with you?
All right. Yeah. No, that sounds great. If you want to get in touch with me, you can definitely connect with me right here on LinkedIn. And you can see my profile, Fian Obayan, and that's FIYIN OBAYAN. You can also follow my company page, Okiki Consulting, if you are actually looking to create more content and you need help in that area. So feel free to reach out to me through there. You can check me out on my website, and that's okikiconsulting.com. And yeah, you can also find me on my YouTube channel, and if you look at Okiki Consulting.
All right, so I'm back now. I had to take my daughter out. She didn't want to participate in the whole live show. Yeah, we got a couple more questions come in while you're here. Jenny said hi from Auntie Jenny. So Jenny is my sister-in-law. Evidently people want to say hi to my daughter when she shows up. We did get a question from Blake, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Ian.
Yeah. I love this.
Are you an Apple computer fan, or what software do you like?
Yeah, I actually am an Apple fan. I'm not gonna lie. Apple's part of the reason I even got into content creation. I was taken to a film camp when I was 13, and that's what they had was Apple. And we used, at the time, iMovie and then GarageBand. Now I've used Final Cut Pro, and that's how I really got into like creating content, like video and music content. So Apple kind of started me on that train for sure. But I've definitely had to use both. But I found the systems on Apple are just more intuitive for content creation.
I'm not an Apple person. I've never really just gotten into them, and I don't know. I never really figured them out. I had a Mac a year or two ago, and they just weren't my thing. So I'm a PC person. I feel like I'm from those old 90s commercials, or a Mac or a PC. I'm the PC guy with an old ugly suit and a tie.
Oh gosh.
Jennifer would agree with you. She's been an Apple fan since my first LC2. I don't know what LC2 is, but I'm gonna say that's a long time ago. I don't know. Here's another question from GoPalin. Should a podcast ideally be video or audio?
Yeah, so for GoPalin, it can be both. All my podcasts, I do both with it, right? I get the video content, and you can see the full clip on YouTube, and then the audio then goes into Libsyn. That's the one I use, and then that is published on Spotify and iTunes. So I've seen a lot of people go, I'm a video content creator, so I can't do podcasting. And I told them, it can be both. You can do whatever you want with it. And the thing is, podcasting gives you a lot of content to use. You have video, you have audio, you have show notes. So then you got a blog. Like, it's really a great way to create a lot of content from one source.
You could. I mean, you can do video if you like that. Some people really don't like video because they don't feel comfortable having their face on the screen. I'm one of those people that I say, if you don't care, just do video. It gives you a little bit more content to share. But if you're uncomfortable with your face on camera, it's not a big deal. Just do audio. And there are things like Wave with a double V. I think it's wave.com with a double V that will turn your audio. They'll make it into a nice little picture for you and sort of play the audio in the background. So you can still have those short, 30, 60-second clips to share on places. And so you can do that. But questions are rolling in here. So we're just gonna keep answering questions, Fian.
Awesome.
So we run out of time here. No. Here's the one, Samarth. Jenny, I think I'll get back to your question just after this. But Samarth, a question for you, Fian. How does it feel different being a guest rather than being a host?
Yeah, it's kind of like being in the back seat. When you're the host, you're like really actively listening to the guests, and then I try to have prepared questions, but often questions will come up as they're speaking, or if they're talking about a topic, I'll go like, yeah, so based on that, and kind of get them to flesh some ideas out. So yeah, it's definitely different because you have to be a very active listener and try and catch some of those like golden nuggets that you think are worth fleshing out for your audience, for sure. So it's more relaxing in some ways, and then in some ways you're like, ooh, I don't know what they're gonna ask me. So there's a little bit of being on your toes, but generally it's more relaxing, especially if you have really good hosts. So for sure.
Yeah, I had Howard on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he usually is the host of a show, but I had him as my guest, and he got on and he said, I don't really know what to think. I don't feel like I'm in control of anything.
Yeah.
So that control, the backseat comment that you mentioned, seemed to tie in nicely with that. A comment here, Blake said he never listens to audio only. He likes to be able to engage with the video. And I think there are a lot of people who are like that. The problem with video is less passive. It's easier to just turn on audio and listen to it and then go around your house to do whatever you wanted to do. But I think video, you make more of a connection with the host there.
Yeah.
Then Samar, I think you want to know, relaxing is what I wanted to hear. I don't know. As a guest, do you feel more relaxed?
You know, honestly, like I say, maybe because this is my second one. We were talking about this before. I'm more relaxed. My first one, I was definitely like really nervous because it's live and you're like thinking, oh my goodness, like if I'm like off or I'm awkward, everyone's gonna see it. You have all these presumptions of what a live show should be. But I think now after watching a few lives and of my own, and then now this is my second one, I realize people just want you to be authentic and show up as you are. It's not really about being perfect when you get on there.
It is, and people don't realize that you get a little nervous before you go live. I mean, I don't know. It's different than if you're doing in-person presentations and you can look out and you can see there's 300 people sitting in chairs.
Yeah.
But you still get a little nervous. You don't know what's going to happen.
For sure.
My kid's going to wander into the room and want to say hi to it all. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Jennifer says she's more relaxed as the host than the guest, and maybe that's the control thing. Being in control, knowing what's coming next, maybe makes you more relaxed. All right, so we're gonna get back to Jennifer's question before. Do you use a contract with your guests to have permission to post it in multiple ways in different locations?
Honestly, I've never done one. All I've done in the survey when they do book their time is ask, like, are you comfortable with video content? Do you want audio content? Like, which form are you comfortable with? And then usually when we talk before the interview, I explain to them what I want to do. And then they're like, okay, cool. And considering I've interviewed, now I have some like pretty big people coming up. No one's ever asked for that. Like, again, if they did, I wouldn't mind going into that if they felt that was necessary. But I assume most people who go on just want to, have more places to post about what they're thinking and what they're promoting. So I think they're trying to make it as easy to share as possible. That's just the experience I've had.
I have never considered doing that. I've never heard of doing that either. My opinion on that is if someone's coming on your show, whether it's live or not, and they're creating content to put on the internet, it's publicly available. I mean, maybe it's worth clarifying exactly what you want to do with it. But I think I'm with you in this fact that most of the people that come on your show have some message to share or some information to get out and are happy that it can get to as many people as possible, however it is you plan to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Jennifer says thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Jennifer.
All right. I think we're running low on our questions, so I think we're gonna end it here. But see, we did pretty close. I'm trying to keep these to 45 minutes, and we're real close to that. We're at 43 minutes. So I wanted to say thanks to Fian so much for being on the show today. Tons of great information in here. Good to get to know you better. Thanks everyone in the audience for interacting and asking questions and sort of, I guess, playing along with how live video works. So thanks for that. And I hope everybody has a great day and a wonderful weekend. If you happen to be watching this in the future, have a great day yourselves. Fian, you can hang on for a second. We'll go back into the studio. The broadcast studio is what it's called. And we can, I guess, have a debrief. I don't know what you want to call it. But thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.